Hello everyone, this is Taryn with Wonderfully Made Handcrafting, and today I'm going to walk through these accordion books that I made for presents for Christmas, and I just kind of wanted to show you how they ended up turning out. I did a couple different process videos on the setup, and so I wanted to show you the end result. I was inspired by Susie at Shabby Soul to create these, and I have loved working through them so much. I can't wait to make another one. I hope I can make one before Christmas next year, just because they're so fun to create. But let me kind of get into this. So this is the first one I created, and this one is for both of my parents. So I have a mix of pictures from when they were growing up on my dad's side and on my mom's side. They're just mixed up in this accordion book to wherever it fit nicely or looked well with the other picture next to it. So that is how I did this one. I do have this nice plaid as the cover and back side of this accordion book. This is from the Tim Holtz Christmas backdrops. So basically everything in here is Tim Holtz for the most part. That's just what I drew my inspiration from. And I did cut this little ephemera piece. This was from the Bells ephemera, and then I did use some frosted crystal on it as well. You'll see I use frosted crystal a lot in this thing. I had recently purchased frosted crystal right before I started making these, and so I fell absolutely in love with it. I can't get away from it. I just love the vintage kind of sparkly look that it gives. Unfortunately, you can't really see it as well on video, but in person it gives a really fun look. I also added these little bells because I love the little jingle jangle that I make. It's so fun. I don't know, I'm a texture kind of person, and to hear these kind of jingle around as well just brings me joy. So that is something that I added. I have them attached to the front cover and also to another page back here. So let's kind of get into this one. I did put a nameplate that was from the regular Ideaology line, and then yeah, let's move on. So this front page is a picture of my mom and her grandma, and then I also added a chipboard piece and some hymn book paper behind it. My mom loves to sing, and so I found some of the Christmas hymns that I decided to add to it. And then on this side, this is actually a vellum piece that I put on a manila tag, and I did distress the edges of that tag just in case you see it peeking through. And to make sure that the vellum wasn't going to be bent backwards when you flipped it, I did add some staples right here, and there's also staples behind here, but I didn't want you to see so many staples, so I decided to cover this up with some of the curator snippets and also one of the countdown brads. This is some seam binding that I dyed, and you'll see I used it in multiple places throughout these books. I really like the texture that it gives, and it's just a fun little piece that you can dye to whatever color you need. So as we flip over, I have this wreath. Now this wreath does have frosted crystal as well. And then to hide those staples, I ended up using another one of those snippets right here. It didn't really bother me, these ones down here, since they're not near the picture. So that's why I didn't cover these ones up. This is a little pocket that I sewed in, so you'll actually see the sewing on the back side as well. You'll see some of the pockets I actually decided to sew into the paper, and some of them I kind of like faux sewed. Thinking about snow here. But anyways, I would sew them and then glue them down so I wouldn't see the sewing on the back side. This is a picture of my father and his brothers, and then just a little cluster of Christmas stuff. This 5 has no significance, really. I just liked the look of it and brought some more red into this page. So in this pocket, I have this picture. I did back most of my pictures so that you wouldn't see any white on the back side if you flipped it over. I did add the date. There was a little bit of empty space up here at the top, so I added a little bit of paper that I had left. Now Susie did teach me to save every single little bit of scrap paper that you have, and I seriously used all those little tiny pieces so often. I'm so glad I started doing that because I do love the Tim Holtz paper, and so having that as an option just to use those little tiny pieces pieces was really important to me. I also did add some of those curator snippets again. That's a really fun pack to grab if you haven't yet. The next page is the first page that I actually ended up completing. I did this little fun cracked glass look with this window. This was from the Halloween collection. And then I added some opaque white grit paste and some clear rock candy. And then I also used that icicle crackle paste and then rubbed some white distress crayon in there, and it really makes those cracks pronounced a little bit. I just thought this was such a cute picture to add to a window. It's my mom walking her dog, and how perfect is it that they have this little ephemera piece included as well. So I did add a little bit of glitter to this one. I realized throughout this project that yes, in fact, glitter does get everywhere. So I was too cold to go outside and do the glitter, but I would do it over my trash can, so that kind of helped out. This little green piece behind it is one of those pocket cards, and I liked using those for backgrounds and just adding some color in different places. I also added a little pocket right here. This is one of the pocket cards, and I really liked adding these just clusters, and these stars were a really big hit with me as well. I would add the stars and dip them in that icicle crackle paste and kind of tone down the mirrored look a little bit and make them look a little bit more vintage. This is a little picture I have of my grandma, or my dad's mom, and all his brothers. And then, like I said, I tried to back all the pictures up. So that is this page. It's just fun to have all the different textures for me. Next one we have is, oh, that's from the other side. Sorry, is this little set. Now this is a picture of my mom and my grandma, and then I just added a special delivery, December 1961. Now she wasn't born in December, but it was her first Christmas, and I just liked how it said special delivery. And then we have one of these little buttons. And then on this side, I loved this worn wallpaper that was the houses and trees and stuff. And so I was trying to give the most of the scene without taking away from it. And so that is why I tore it in this way. And then I made a little pocket. My dad's name is Doug, so I added that with the marquee letters because I love marquee letters. And he's a chef, so it was perfect to have this little recipe card in the background. This was another one of those pocket cards. And then I kept this picture as is because they had written December 63 on it. And I just thought it was a fun picture to add to this little pocket. I did add some foam tape behind here, and then it needed something else, so this metal piece really helps make it stand out. And then I also added a tiny, tiny little mirrored star on that Christmas tree. The next page we have, I did use that snowfall grit paste. It is probably hard to see in this video, but I wanted it to kind of look like a slush everywhere, and so I did it right over this little Santa and his sleigh, and then a little bit over the picture. But you see again December 63 that they had handwritten out. Now these aren't the original photos. I copied all of them so that we could, save the originals. This is that stocking, and it has some frosted crystal on it. Sorry, I'm trying to hold those bells for you, if you can see. And then my dad and his brother were born really close, and so I just thought it was fun to write Holly and Jolly together. On this side, this is pretty fun. I had bought the Christmas file folders, but I wasn't using them, and then I had some more pictures that I definitely wanted to include, and so I wasn't sure of how to add those in. And so I decided to actually add it in with a file folder. So you'll see this whole chunk is just held together by this clip right here. And this is my dad and his brother meeting Santa, and a little to Brad. So as we open this is where I have this second set of a bell and a little word. It says wonder on it. And then I put one of the salvage tags on here with this December 25th Christmas Day. This is all frosted crystal. So you have a couple of different textures on this side of the card. And then this is actually a vintage postcard that I found at a shop. I love using real vintage pieces as well. And I didn't want to take away from the card at all, so I decided to just paper or clip this to it because I liked how it looked with it, but I wanted to be able to see that still. On the back side, I have this picture of my dad and his brother throwing snowballs at their dad or my grandpa, and then I kept it available to see the actual handwriting in the back. And this postcard was from 1906. Here I have, well, this is where my dad used to live. But anyways, and their family no longer owns that house. But anyways, I just thought it was fun to add his old house address from the North Pole and with that little reindeer. So this will all clip back together. And I did hinge this in with some of that fabric tape as well. So on the back side, we have this picture of my mom and her dad, and I just wanted something simple to add in there. I liked this frame, how it toned down the blues in this a little bit, and then we have the Christmas tree, the big ephemera Christmas tree paper in the back. And then I added a little note to my parents, say Merry Christmas and what year I made it, and then we're going to start on the back side. Okay, so as we start on the back side, you're just going to flip it from here to here, and then you can just start flipping it back this way. Because it's an accordion book, it is super fun like that. This is one of those metal tags. It's the most wonderful time of the year. And here you can see that I used all those little tiny pieces. This was one from the pocket cards, and when it wasn't... when stuff wasn't seen, I would just cut it off and use those extra pieces in different places in this book. And so that was really fun to try to piece together different things and find places to put them. So I liked how this brought in a little bit more of that dirty greenish gray color. And then you can see here, I did use a bunch of those snippets. This is propped up just a little bit on some foam tape to add a little bit of dimension, and then this is that velvet trim from Tim Holtz as well. On this side, you see I used those mirrored stars yet again. I really liked those. And then this is actually one of the vellum pieces that I cut down, and I used some real vintage ledger paper from the 1850s behind it because it added a nice color tone, but it was still keeping with the color that it was. And so that was really fun to do. And I just held them together with little brads and then added a little bit more paper in the background because I know my mom really likes that buffalo check. And then we have this propped up with some foam tape, the peppermint drops, and some frosted crystal. In real life, you can really see how much this sparkles. I really liked these memo pins, but I couldn't find a lot of places to use them. So my next book, I'm hoping to figure out a little bit more how to use them more. But I really liked how just added to the cluster here. So here is another photo that I made a little tab for. This is my dad and his brother. And then I put a little pieces back here so that you would see something when you took the picture out. You also see this little paper clip, and what I did with this was an actual worn wallpaper piece, but what I wasn't loving is that it is only one-sided, and so I backed it back to back, and then it made it much thicker, and I could fold it down and you wouldn't see anything besides the worn wallpaper. Next page we have here is fun. I did this little stencil work with some texture paste. I did color the texture paste with gathered twigs, I believe it was. And while it was still wet, I added some of that clear rock candy, so it adds this perfect sparkle to it. Now this is also another vellum piece. I backed it on some of that manila paper from the number 8 tags. And then this photo is propped up on some foam tape as well. It's my dad and all his brothers and their grandmother. This was something that I just had in my stash that someone gave me, and I thought it like really pulled in the other greens. And then on this side, we have them with Santa the next year And I thought this was fun. They lived near Buffalo, New York, and Rochester. And so I ended up adding that little stamp that I had in my stash as well. Someone had passed this on to me. Then on this page, this is the last page I have in this book. Now, I wanted to create my own paper dolls because I really loved the look of paper dolls, but I didn't want to add paper dolls into this book since I have so many pictures of my parents. I didn't want to, in the future when I have these books and I'm old and senile, I didn't want to wonder if those paper dolls were my parents or not. And so I figured I would just make my own. So that is what I did with this picture. It was my mom and her brother playing outside, and so I decided to cut those out. Then I have a couple layering pieces. This is another one of those pocket cards. And then I have my dad's brothers playing with my grandpa outside in the snow. And then I just loved this piece of ephemera. I kept on trying to use it, and so I just tucked it into the pocket, and I did back it with some of the pieces that I had extra. So those just live right in here. And then this is one of those frosted crystal pieces that I created. And then on this side, this is a picture of my grandma and my mom's family. And then I just added some layers and a button. Now this is actually one of the pockets that we saw from the front side, if you remember that. And so since I had a pocket back here, I decided to add this little piece as well. I was really happy with how just punching this ribbon with an eyelet, I just liked the look of that, and so I added that into the pocket as well. So then after that, this just flips to the front side, and this one is done. But let me show you the next one I did. So this is the second one I created. This one is actually for my grandpa. This is my mom's dad. And so this one just has my mom's side of the family in it. So it's a little bit smaller and not so bulky, I guess. But at the same time, it's still pretty bulky because I added a lot of chunk to it, which is my favorite things. So I have the same kind of setup as in the front. I did add a little bit of this wallpaper trim, and on the back side is the same paper, just vertically instead of horizontally. I added these bells to the front and a little bit of this seam binding that I dyed. And then in the back, there is a little piece of yarn that hangs out as well to add another piece of texture. So as you open this one up, you'll see the same photos for the most part, at least from my mom's side, but they're laid out a little bit differently or used differently. I did cover up, this is my grandfather's old address, so I decided to cover that up for him. But this is another one of those pocket cards. And then I did kind of stash that photo in the same kind of way, but different velvet trim and obviously a different pocket and look. These are those little paper dolls that I created with my mom and her brother. And then this too, I decided to add a two because it's two of them. They are just my mom and her brother. And I did double frosted crystal this. I just really liked how it added some extra glitter to it. And then this picture is one of the little packagings. And then I added a little bit of that acetate to the package so you could look like it was like a little package picture. And then this is also frosted crystal as well. Next page we have, I added that 65 because it was in 1965. When I did this red star, I added, I frosted crystalled it, and then I added a little bit of that clear rock candy as well to add a little bit more glitter. And then this page just reminds me of the forest, so I added this little frame, and then this is one of the like ephemera pieces in the background that I just snipped off so you can see some of the forest trees and stuff. On this side, my grandmother was a nurse, and so I added this little pin, and then to add more red to this to match her dress and the star and all, I did dye some more of that seam binding and made it a little bit brighter of a red. Now in this book, I did decide to just do the faux sewing, like I sewed the piece of paper and then glued it down. It seemed to be much easier. I mean, I really like sewing, but it was much easier to just add the sewing detail and then glue it down itself. My grandmother liked music, and so I added this little pocket card. Now this one is just not glued down, it's just tucked in here. So I figured they could take it out if they wanted to, my grandfather or mother. And then this is that picture again. This time I just added a tab in the date and year. Next page, we have this one. Now this one I did add that black 25, and then this is a little bird ephemera piece that I propped up on some foam tape so it's sticking out, and I did add some of that frosted crystal. Now the key to frosted crystal is not overheating it too much, and that's how you get the most amount of glitter. I realized as I was working with it that the less I embossed it, the better it looked. Then I also have this little tag, like it was from my mom and uncle to my grandpa. And so they are just playing in the snow right here. This is a picture that I didn't have room for in my other book. Now, I don't know if you follow me on Instagram, but this is one of the things that I created on Instagram. I did emboss some aluminum baking dishes, the disposable ones. And so this is how I did, I added it to this little fun accordion book. I thought my grandpa would really like that. I did add some lace pieces and, you guessed it, some more curator pieces. And then to create this aged look on the metal, I did use alcohol inks. My favorite color is mushroom. It adds this beautiful like blue patina almost to it. And so that is my favorite one. I'm definitely going to have to pick up one of those big bottles of mushroom pretty soon. As we flip over to this side, we have my little note to my grandpa saying what year and all. And this is another pocket that I created. And then you see that picture again, and I backed it. So that just lives in there. And then on this side, I was having some trouble because my mom had a lot of presents down here, but the colors just didn't fit with the picture, and so I decided to hide them all with this little cluster of goodness. So I had more curator snippets, and then also from the holiday little ephemera packs. So now we have this little yarn piece, and we'll flip it over, and then we'll work from the back side. So here again, I did one of those window things. It's a little bit different. It's a wider window, so I don't have as much space to fill on this page, which is fine with me. And then I did use that grit paste and also the clear rock candy again, and the white distress crayon on the cracks of the icicle crackling paste. On this side, this is just such a fun picture for me. I wanted to add something funny, but didn't know what to say. But it just totally embodies what parents feel like on Christmas. So this is my grandpa and my grandma. And then I had this little piece left, so I just added that in and created a cluster. And then, you know, those little mirrored stars that I love. And then what's fun is my grandfather was born in 1939. So I added this little pin. And then as you flip here, we have one more page. Now, what's really cool, which I didn't even notice, was I was showing my mom this, and it says December 1936 on the side, and that is actually when my grandmother was born. So I thought that was a really special touch that just happened to be. This was originally just a regular deer ephemera piece, but I decided to cut out one of the holly berries from another ephemera piece. I forget where I used it. I used it somewhere else in here. But anyways, I cut out one of the little holly berries and then added some clear rock candy to it to make it look like it's sparkling. And then added a little piece of that seam binding to make a bow on the deer as well. We have a paper clip here, and then this is the rest of that hymn book paper that I had used on this, or not on this side, on the other book, sorry. And I just loved looking for the little pieces to use in different places. So this was a fun little layering area to add. And then on this side, this picture was super empty. It didn't have much in it, but I really wanted to include it in this book. And so I used this frame. Now this frame was a little bit too long. It is one of those chipboard frames. And so I ended up cutting it with my Tim Holtz scissors, and I cut just fine. And to make it not look awkward, I guess, on the edge, I did add some of this grit paste and clear rock candy in it as well. And then I knew the date was 1967, so I added that up there with my Dymo label maker. Thank you so much for watching these, guys. These were so much fun to create. I can't wait to make some more junk journals, hopefully in the future, with some different photos in them. If you haven't followed me over on Instagram yet, my name over there is Wonderfully Made Handcrafting. I'll try to link all the videos down below in the description of all the tools and resources that I used from Tim Holtz. And if you haven't seen the process of actually putting this accordion book together, I'll link that video next. I hope you have a wonderful day and Merry Christmas.